We got lots to talk about in the NFL world. It's our NFL Week 14 show coming up next on Inside the Zone with Mateo. Let's roll the new intro, and then we'll get into it. Everybody, welcome back to Inside the Zone with Mateo. Hope you guys like the new intro. And as I said, yes, it is NFL Week 14. It's Week 14 of the NFL, I should say, probably. That sounds better. And yes, we are getting closer and closer to playoff football with just a couple weeks left in the season, just 4 weeks in the season. To be exact, we got Week 14, Week 15, Week 16, Week 17. Okay, so technically there's 18 weeks, so there are 5 weeks left. I had to do that math. We got about a month left, though. It is December. It's cold. It's December. We got 4 games, 4 Sundays in December. That is the first Sunday in January, and then it's playoff time. It's going to be an exciting next month, and it's going to be an exciting next hour or so here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is our weekly NFL show. I try, and I think I have so far throughout the entire season, to get 1 episode a week dedicated to only the NFL, because that is probably the most watched sport in America. I'm based here in Minnesota, so we give what the sport fans want, and then we occasionally talk about my Minnesota sport teams, and then any other headlines that I feel like we need to do an episode on. That's what some other things we do here on the podcast, but it's all about the NFL today. And we got loads to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into Mateo's show batting order. We use this every single podcast episode, or almost every single podcast episode. It's basically just like a little roadmap of what we go through, what I'm planning to go through on the show. We give it a little sports twist with the batting order. If you know baseball, basically the batting order is kind of like the lineup. So I just say, hey, let's. When I started the podcast, I just wanted a little thing to do, a little name for this little segment here, of basically giving you a complete outline of what we're doing today here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. And it's the same outline for every single NFL episode. It's what I learned from the previous week of the NFL. Then I hold myself accountable for the picks I made last week, and then we will make my Week 14 picks. And then my Week 14 power rankings. So that is what an NFL episode looks like here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. Also, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get at least 50 subscribers by 2026. We're at like almost 40. So I'm saying, can we get 13 subscribers in a month? Let's do that. Maybe more. Give me a little early Christmas present. I've been putting in a lot of work, and I think I deserve it. But hey, you guys can be the judges of that. But without further ado, let's get into what the heck I learned from Week 13 of the NFL. Obviously, there's always 5 things I learned from, or I just picked the 5 biggest things for me that I've learned for the previous week of the NFL. Obviously, there could be 15 to 20 things I learned from just 1 week of the NFL, but I have to narrow it down to 5. So this is what it's going to be. And as a reminder, also, as we're into the playoff push, the end of the season, the first thing is always the same. It is these teams are making the playoffs, which is basically a playoff picture breakdown of what teams I think are going to be making the playoffs, what teams have been eliminated from playoff contention, and what I still am not certain on. And by the way, it can vary on weeks. We could have one team be for sure lock in 1 week, and then they could be wiped out from the locked in spot, just like somebody did this week. So here is the slide from last week. I said these teams are making the playoffs. They almost 100% locked in were the Colts, the Eagles, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Rams, and the 49ers. Those were their records heading into week 13, I believe. Yes, week 13. And then Okay, still in the hunt was anybody else besides these teams, the Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, New York Jets, Las Vegas Raiders, New York Giants, New Orleans Saints, Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons, Arizona Cardinals, and the Minnesota Vikings. And the bolded, why Minnesota was bolded was because they were a new team that I had added into the elimination club. And then when the team gets a strike through, that means they are mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. So the Giants were the only mathematically eliminated team last week, but things changed. And let's just go over here. So the Titans got eliminated, the Raiders got eliminated, the Saints got eliminated, and the Cardinals got eliminated. Minnesota is still highlighted. I kind of forgot about that. But there aren't, I'm not adding any other teams to like the eliminated spot because it's like the same teams are in the, like, I'm still talking about the same teams that could have a shot at making the playoffs as last week. So that will stay there the same. But if you notice at a almost 100% locked in spot, there's no longer the Indianapolis Colts. For I think that like one of the first times this season, they were so good. I was raving about them. I was trying to defend my case where I believe in the Colts, and they're now a wild card spot. They're tied for the lead in their division with the Jaguars. I can't give them almost 100% locked in spot right now just because they might not make the playoffs. Do I think they could still make the playoffs? I do think they'll probably still make the playoffs, but it's not almost 100% locked in. That doesn't fit the, it doesn't fit the, I don't know how to say it, the description of what I think of when I put teams into those categories. Almost 100% locked in spots are basically teams where if the season ended in a week or two, what I feel pretty confident these teams would be in the playoffs. You could say that about the Colts, but I'm not totally confident here. I do think they're going to still end up winning. There's still 5 weeks left in the NFL, but I decided we're going to talk about it a little bit here. But yeah, the Bears, welcome to almost 100% locked in at 9-3, leading the NFC North. The Seahawks, welcome in. And then I think that's it. I don't think I took anybody else out. No, I didn't take anybody else out. And then the Seahawks and Bears were the ads, and the Colts dropped out. Yeah, but still in the hunt is anybody else that I haven't mentioned already and that aren't one of the eliminated teams or the teams that I have eliminated myself. And then spots open are still, for me, I think there's only one wildcard spot in the NFC playoff picture that is still up for grabs. I do believe all three wild cards in the AFC are still up for grabs. I'll talk about that in a second. I do still think we need to. We don't know who's going to win the AFC North. We don't know who's going to win the NFC South. The NFC West is still up for grabs. The NFC North is up for grabs. Even if the Bears are in the lead with that, I think we can't rule the Lions and Packers out quite yet, especially because the Bears are playing the Packers this week. And now I had to add this. I didn't think I would have to add it this season, but the AFC South, we have no idea who is going to win that division. But yeah, the only AFC teams that I have at almost 100% locked in are the Patriots and the Broncos. The Patriots at 11-2, and the Broncos at 10-2. Otherwise, all the other locked teams are almost 100% into the playoff teams are all NFC teams. So we're going to take a look at the playoff picture now here via ESPN. Let me pull this up. We're going to start in the AFC right there. Boom. There we go. Yep. Okay. As you can see, the number one seed are the New England Patriots sitting at 11-2, and they are actually going to be on a bye week this week. So they will stay at 11-2. The Denver Broncos are 10-2. They are not on a bye week this week. This is the last week, by the way. There are bye weeks. Everybody else will play the remaining 4 weeks of the season. The Jaguars, see, I told you, they snuck in. They're tied for the lead in that division, and they have the tiebreaker over the Colts because they beat the Colts. So they have the tiebreaker against the Colts. They're both sitting, though, at 8-4. The Colts are still in a playoff spot. The Ravens, despite losing to the Bengals, are still in the lead for the division. the Steelers are now out of a playoff spot at 6-6, but again, the Ravens are still 6-6, so they're tied with the Steelers. Then you start entering the wild card races. The Chargers are 8-4, the Colts are 8-4, the Bills are 8-4. Then you got sitting right on the bubble are the Texans at 7-5, the Steelers at 6-6, the Chiefs at 6-6, the Dolphins at 5-7, and the Cincinnati Bengals sitting at 4-8. You also have, and then the Jets Browns aren't technically mathematically eliminated, but for me they are eliminated, so we don't even really have to talk about them. Here, I'm just gonna boom, there. We don't have to even see them. Well, you kind of see the Jets, but those are the 12 teams I'm going to talk about. The other 4 teams are going to be trying to get a good draft pick, or just try to rebuild for next season. But yeah, the Patriots have looked really good with Drake May. I think they are a very scary team. I've talked a lot about them in a recent show, so I'm not going to do that as much. I do want to talk a little bit about the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been very, very surprising. Trevor Lawrence is starting to show what we all thought he was going to be once the Jaguars drafted him. The Jaguars drafted him so long ago. We didn't know if Trevor Lawrence was going to be him. Now, I wouldn't say he's him right now at all, but I'm saying he is playing way better than we are used to seeing from these last couple of years. And yeah, they could end up winning this division. I believe they play the Colts one more time too. So technically, you could, if you have that tiebreaker, if you beat them both times, yeah, they play not. Hold on, wait, no, this is not right. This is not right. What? Okay, wow. I sold. Ha. Jaguars are playing the Colts this week, and they play them twice. The Jaguars have not played the Colts yet. The Colts played the Texans. Excuse me. They play them on Sunday, and that's in Jacksonville. And then week 17 is the Jaguars at the Colts. But the Jaguars, despite those 2 games, you got a game against the Broncos in Denver, so that will probably be a loss. But then you play the Jets and the Titans. Both are home games for the Jaguars, so you should win that. So you're 2-1. So yeah, those games against the Colts are going to matter a lot. And if Trevor Lawrence can step up and prove to be, to prove why the Jaguars drafted him so high when they drafted him. He's 26 years old, you guys. That is crazy. He is 26. I feel like we've just been waiting, for him to take that next step that we keep forgetting. Yeah, he's 26 years old. He's been in the league since how long has he been? How long has he been in the league? 2020. 2021. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. He's been in the league for 5 years. Yeah, he's looking really good. The touchdown to interception ratio is not good, but he's thrown 2,636 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Those numbers aren't great, but hey, if you're having 8-4 record, hey, people are gonna start noticing you, and the fact that you maybe could beat the Colts at least once. Who knows what might happen? And I think the Jaguars, they beat the Chiefs, which was huge. So I think that's the point where I started taking the Jaguars a little more seriously. I do think the Jaguars for sure could at least make a wild card spot, this is why it makes this playoff picture so much more interesting. Because say I think the Colts will end up winning the division. Say the Colts win the division. I think both of those teams are going to end up making the playoffs. The Jaguars and the Colts. It's a hot take, maybe. You guys can decide that. Who now in the playoff picture would either make the playoffs over the Bills or the Chargers? Or could you see the Chargers and Bills hypothetically missing the playoffs? I personally think the Bills are going to miss the playoffs. Yes, I know they are the Bills. They have Josh Allen. But they have James Cook and Josh Allen, and that is really it. You're playing the Bengals this week, and you're saying, okay, the Bengals are not that great. Well, hey, I have some things to say about that. I'm gonna save that for another thing. Because in this, what I learned from last week, I'm gonna talk about the Bengals a little bit. I'm gonna save that. I wouldn't count the Bengals out of this game, but then you play the Patriots, you play the Eagles, and then you do play the Jets and the Browns. So even if you go 500, say you beat the Bengals even 3-2, you have 11 wins. That might be good enough for a playoff spot, but it certainly might not be with the ways the Texans are playing, with the way, we know Mahomes can always clutch up. If Mahomes wins his next 5 games, which are all pretty winnable, you hypothetically could have an 11-6 Chiefs, and then you're tied with the Bills. Did they play each other this year? I believe they did. And the Bills did beat them, so they do have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, which is interesting because they could end up with the same record. But there's something about the Bills, something about the Chargers that I can't put them at locks. And they're 8-4. Sure, maybe if they win one more game at 9 wins, I'll say okay. But this AFC playoff picture is so tight that I can't. I have to be really careful of who I'm believing in right now because to be honest, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to believe. This season has been so unpredictable. It's going to be interesting to see, who slides in, who doesn't. Hypothetically, the Dolphins have a very easy schedule. Could they slide in if they continue to win games at like 9-8 or 10-7? The Steelers could. The Steelers, I think, might be done for. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be Ravens or Bengals winning that division. But yeah, it is really interesting to see what's going to happen with this AFC playoff picture, and so that's going to be your a little quick AFC playoff picture, overview, and then we get into the NFC. We can ignore all these teams. It's just the top 10 teams, and in fact, I'm going to zoom in. So we do indeed, just don't need to see my Vikings. We don't care about them. Boom. These are the top 10 teams. These are the 10 teams, in my opinion, that are the only teams that are in playoff contention. All above 500, and all are playing very differently. You have teams playing really well, like the Bears, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Niners. You have teams playing awful as of late, like the Buccaneers and the Eagles. You could even say Detroit. And then the teams are kind of like in the middle, like you have a good game and like another good game and then like a bad game. That's kind of the Packers and the Rams. I could see any of these 10 teams making the playoffs, and only 7 make it. So there are going to be 3 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs out of these teams, okay? I think only one of the NFC South teams will make the playoffs because it's just going to be the winner of that division. The Buccaneers or the Buccaneers or the Panthers. They're both okay. The Buccaneers are 7-5. The Panthers are 7-6. It's going to be interesting to see. I believe they have games against each other remaining. One of those guys are going to just win the division, so ignore those wild card spots aren't even matter. So I was just saying ignore those teams. I did say all 3 of the NFC West teams were locks. Okay, so that leaves a division winner and then 2 of the wild card spots filled up. So there's 1 wild card spot filled up. So that could either be 2 NFC North teams with an NFC East team getting eliminated, 2 NFC East teams with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles making the playoffs, one as a wild card, one as a division winner, and then most likely Green Bay and Detroit being eliminated. And those are really the 2 options. So you could have an NFC North winner, so that most likely the Bears, and then either the Packers or the Lions. You could have the Chicago Bears win the division and then have the Dallas Cowboys sneak in as a wild card team and the Eagles win the division. You could have I'm trying to think. I think those are really the only realistic possibilities. For me right now, Green Bay looks good at 8-3-1. Dallas looks good at 6-5-1. Right now, the odd man out for sure. One of the NFC South teams, whoever doesn't win that division, is gone. In the Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown is out for 2 weeks. Those games are not easy. You got the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football in Detroit. And then you got, I'm pretty sure, the Rams. Yeah, you got the Rams, and it's in LA. Those 2 games you could be without Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then you play the Steelers, Vikings, Bears. And easier at the end, but still, you have to get through those 2 games. You're coming off a loss to the Packers without Amon-Ra. It took overtime for you to beat the Giants. You got killed by the Eagles. You haven't had a very good Lions win since November 9th against the Commanders. And then the week before, you lost to J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings. So you could argue they haven't been playing some good football since end of October, beginning of November. This next 2 games, I'm taking their opponents against them. Unless, of course, Amon-Ra comes back, which could change the outcome of the Rams game. But it looks like Amon-Ra is not going to play. So, spoiler alert for my picks, I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys over the Detroit Lions. Detroit falls to 7-6. Dallas goes to 7-5-1. They jump up a spot in the standings and are only 1 spot away from a playoff spot. And I think then Detroit, that's probably it. Then if you lose again, you go to 7-7, you're probably done. That means we had to eliminate 1 more NFC team that won't make the wild card. So it's obviously going to, in my opinion, going to come down to the Packers and the Detroit Lions. The Packers beat the Lions both times. Packers had the tiebreaker. Give me the Packers. Excuse me. I think I said that right, but no, it comes down to the Dallas Cowboys in my sorry. I sold that. Okay. It's going to come down to the Packers and the Lions. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I said it again. The Packers and the Cowboys. Mind you, they tied. I don't know how that tiebreaker now goes because they tied. If you look at conference record, because that's what I'm guessing it would be. Oh my goodness. The Bears are 6-2-1 against the conference. Not the Bears. The Packers are 6-2-1 against the conference. While the Dallas Cowboys are 3-4-1. Now the Cowboys, do they have a lot of games against their conference left? They have 3-4. So technically, they could go on a little bit of a run. But this is just seeming like these teams, 8, 9, and 10, or if the Buccaneers lose the division. So it seems like for me right now, though, this is just my reckless speculation, that Detroit and Dallas are going to be ending up eliminated. And then either Carolina or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be eliminated. And then one of those teams will make the playoffs. Seattle, Green Bay, San Francisco, Rams, and the Bears will make the playoffs, as well as the Eagles. That's what I'm thinking. But then you can also talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 8-4. The Dallas Cowboys are 6-5-1. That's 1.5 games back of the Philadelphia Eagles, who, mind you, the Cowboys beat them once already. They did lose to them on opening night, but so they are 1-1. And then you go to conference record. Conference record, most likely. Or no. Then you go to division record. Philly is 2-2 against the division. Dallas is 3-1. That means they would have the tiebreaker. The Dallas Cowboys have the Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants. Could easily go 5-0 and be 11-5-1. The Philadelphia Eagles are 8-4 and have been looking very interesting. They lost to the Bears. They play the Chargers, Commanders, Bills, Raiders. You could go 5-0 for sure in that stretch. Give me a four, I think 4 wins in that stretch for them. They do have the 12 wins, so they would end up winning the division. But I'm saying things could happen. I don't fully trust the Eagles. I did keep them at almost 100% locked in this week. But that being said, this playoff picture is going to be insane. And I love breaking it down here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. But that's going to be it for this first thing. The second thing I learned from week 13 in the NFL is this. Boom! Colts might be overrated. Okay? Okay, Colts. I don't really know what to say. First of all, at the trade deadline, you end up getting Sauce Gardner for very cheap. He's not doing anything. Okay? Secondly, they can't win when Jonathan Taylor doesn't score a touchdown. I'm pretty sure they haven't won a game where Jonathan Taylor hasn't scored a touchdown. Against the Texans on Sunday, Daniel Jones had a pretty darn good game. But Jonathan Taylor did not score a touchdown. If Jonathan Taylor would have scored a touchdown, the Colts would have won. So this shows you exactly the Colts' weakness. If you can stop Jonathan Taylor, stop him from going, there's a very good shot that you could win even if Daniel Jones has a great game. Daniel Jones, 14 of 27, 201, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Alex Pierce, 4 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. Nico Collins did not score a touchdown. CJ Stroud didn't throw a touchdown. He even threw an interception, so the defense was even doing pretty darn good. Nick Chubb scored a rushing touchdown, and Nico Collins scored a rushing touchdown for the Houston Texans. Who had that interception? Can't bind him again, bro. Vikings should not have let him go. Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 85 yards. He was averaging 4 yards a carry. His longest run was a 12-yard run. A team that started insane is now 8-4 and not even leading their division anymore. This is all I'm going to say about this. The Colts might just be overrated. The third thing I learned from week 13 of the NFL is this. Boom! Well, why didn't it go? Boom! There we go. Fire everybody. Okay. Fire everybody at the Minnesota Vikings. As a Viking fan, I tend to have one Viking rant or something of the week. And yeah, it's going to be simple this week. As you see, fire everybody. First of all, Max Brosmer is not better than J.J. McCarthy. Threw 4 interceptions, didn't score a touchdown. Yeah, we got shut out by the Seahawks. Yeah, when our defense actually played good. Dallas Turner did have a good game. Sure. JJ stinks. Max Brosmer stinks. We don't have a quarterback, okay? That's first. So they can't be our quarterbacks coming into 2026 unless the Vikings are stupid enough, which, hey, they probably would be. Secondly, the play calling again. You do not run, you do not pass the ball with a undrafted quarterback making his NFL debut. You do not pass the ball on 4th and 1 from the Seahawks 6 with Max Brosmer as your quarterback, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell, this is what you do. First, you kick a field goal. It's in the first quarter or second quarter. It's early in the game. You can kick a field goal. And by the way, I'm probably a little bit more mad about this too, because if they would have kicked the field goal, I would have won a fantasy game this week. Will Riker had 0 points because they did not take that. They didn't score touchdowns, so there was no extra points, and they didn't even have a field goal this time because they were going for it on 4th down all the time. Secondly, Kevin O'Connell, you could have run the ball. Jordan Mason is one of the hardest guys to tackle. He'll give you explosive yards. They hadn't been running with him. You also have Aaron Jones you could throw in. You could give it to TJ Hawkinson. He probably could sneak it in. You could do the tush push. You could do a QB sneak. You could do so many other things than pass the ball, and it's a play action bootleg on the run. It's not even just a slant route, a quick route. It was a full play with 4th and 1, probably 4th and more like inches. Kevin O'Connell, what's that play calling? And it's been like that all year. Secondly, Kevin O'Connell does not know how to work with young quarterbacks. He might be the quarterback whisperer for veteran quarterbacks who've been in the league for like 13 years, like Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins. He does not know how to coach young quarterbacks, so do not give this man another year of J.J. McCarthy. Bring in a veteran who will understand what he needs to do. He'll understand, okay, I'm going to throw it to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson had 1 catch, 2 targets on Sunday. What the heck are you doing? Kevin O'Connell does not know how to coach young quarterbacks. I heard this. Max Brosmer was giving out 30-syllable plays in his first start. I want to see, what is the average syllable count of NFL play? Do they not say it? Oh, okay. Never mind. I was wondering if Google doesn't know. Anyway, 30-syllable plays is insane. It's dot dot dot. Okay, hold on. Here. I will count out 30 syllables. Dot 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 dot. That is 30 syllables. He was saying that on almost every play in his first NFL game. Dumb the playbook down. I guarantee, if it was any other coach, they would have dumbed the playbook down. Hey, by the way, props to Zach Taylor, because Zach Taylor, when Joe Burrow went down, they brought in Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is a veteran. They dumbed the playbook down. They just said, throw it to Jamar Chase. He got like 300 receiving yards. Because that's all you have to do when you have a good receiver. We have one of the best receivers in the game other than Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson is a phenomenal wide receiver. But when you're not even getting targets, what the heck are you doing? It was the same playbook he was using with J.J. McCarthy. When Max Brosmer is not even he's not even close to J.J. McCarthy. Like, that was bad. However, I think we could have maybe had some success just if the playbook would have been dumbed down. So that's number 2. Number 3, these draft picks. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah needs to get fired as well, because he does not know how to draft besides maybe Dallas Turner and maybe Jordan Addison. And there's a maybe in front of those names. We just need a whole new system with a veteran quarterback, promote Brian Flores to head coach, because that defense looked good on Sunday. And that's all I'm going to say about my Vikings rant for this week. The fourth thing I learned from week 13 of the NFL is this. Boom. I believe in the Bengals. I do believe in the Bengals. And I will tell you why I believe in the Bengals in 1 second. As soon as I pull up the standings, I will tell you exactly why. Because actually, it won't even be hard to see because boom! Look at the standings. Joe Burrow came back. They beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And it wasn't even close. They're 4-8 now. And they're only 2 games back of the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers, who are tied for the lead in that division. Oh, also, they're 3-1 against their division, so they by far have the tiebreaker, even if they split with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they did split with the Steelers, but right now, you have a better division record, so you have that tiebreaker over the Steelers. And at the most, you'll split the series with the Ravens, but I think you're probably going to beat the Ravens twice. So you'll have the tiebreaker over them. So really, you're only about a game back. You're really only about a game back. Cincinnati's schedule. This is where people are going to say, okay, Mateo, chill. Chill, Mateo. You're playing the Bills this week, right? The Bengals have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have owned Josh Allen. It doesn't matter where they're playing. I'm Bengals versus Bills. Yep. Beautiful. Since when they entered the league in 2020. I'm just pulling this up. Hold on. They haven't played actually since 2023. That's crazy. Is this for Cincy? Yeah, this was for Cincy. Okay. There you go. For Cincinnati, since 2020 when Joe Burrow entered the league. I know they've only played... Have they only really played 2 games? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. But still, look. At Buffalo, they won 27-10. Oh, because one of those games was the DeMar Hamlin game, so they just didn't count it. My bad. Yeah, okay. But they were winning that game as well, by the way. And then in 2023, and that was a division game they won in Buffalo. They won a playoff game in Buffalo, in the snow, 27-10. And then they beat them 24-18 in Cincinnati in the season a couple years ago. That's 2-0. Joe Burrow is 2-0 against Josh Allen. Now, it's not as much as I thought it was, and so it might be a little more hard to convince you guys that. But I still think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase will beat Josh Allen and James Cook and the Buffalo Bills. That defense, if that defense, and even more, they were playing with their awful defense. If Trey Hendrickson comes back this week, if they play good defense like they were playing against Baltimore, I think we could have Bills. You better be on upset alert. Be aware at least. Do not disrespect the Bengals, because if they win out, even if they win 4 of their next 5 games, I think they could still win the division at 8-9. The Bengals' remaining schedule. Here it is. Oh. Bills, then you play the Ravens, Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns. Those last 3 games are easy. You beat the Ravens already in Baltimore, so why not beat them again? The Bills game is very questionable. And by the way, if you beat the Browns, you get another division win. So at least you'll be 4-2, even if you lose to the Ravens. You'll have a 4-2 record against the division, which is better than anybody right now. Now, A lot of this does have to do because the Steelers and the Ravens also play each other twice. They both play each other twice in the last 5 weeks of the season, including on Sunday. But guess what? Lamar Jackson, questionable to play again. He is not practicing today, December 4th, 2025, and was limited on Wednesday's practice. Things are not looking good for him. It looks like he's hurt, which means, hey, even if the Steelers beat them, I am way less concerned about the Steelers than the Ravens. I feel like the Ravens could for sure end up kind of winning more games. But if you have Tyler Huntley starting, you ain't going to win any more games this season. You have the Steelers twice, the Bengals, the Patriots, and the Packers. Or maybe you'll win about 500 of your games, and that's not going to be enough. And then the Steelers, I don't fully trust the Steelers really either. They've fallen out of my radar. So you play the Ravens twice, you play they have a more favorable schedule. They do play the Lions. They play the Dolphins, who I do think the Dolphins can steal a game at any time. It's gonna really depend on the day, and then they do play the Browns. So in a way, if you want the Bengals to make the playoffs, here's the Steelers' schedule. If you want the Bengals to make the playoffs, and I kind of want them just for the chaos of it, I think I don't know if you want the Steelers to win this week or not. I think you want the Ravens to win this week, and then the Bengals beat the Ravens, and the Bengals have to win out. So if they beat the Bills, they go to 5-8. Oh gosh, I'm setting myself up for a 6-7 here. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh would fall to 6-7, and then Baltimore would go to 7-6. If then the Bengals can beat them again, they'll go to 6-8, 7-7. They're one game back of the Ravens. Then the Ravens after that. Sorry, that's the Steelers. The Ravens after that Bengals game, they have to go play the Patriots and the Packers, and then you play the Steelers. So then you have them lose again. They go 7-9, 7-9, and then the Bengals have that easy schedule. I think even if the Ravens win this week, the Bengals have to win this week. If the Bengals can beat the Bills, though, also, they can beat any of the remaining teams on their schedule. This is why it intrigues me so much. And that is why I said I believe in the Bengals as my fourth thing I learned this week. The final thing I learned this week from the NFL is this. The 49ers are winning the NFC. Ooh, shoot. Dang. I did not format that correctly at all. My bad. But it's the 49ers will win. Did I say will win? Yeah, will win the NFC West. We had our little AFC division talk. Now we're going to talk about this division, the NFC West. All sitting at 9 wins, which means the tiebreakers are very important. And look at the division records here. That's what's important. The San Francisco 49ers are 4-1 against their division this season with one game remaining against a division team, and that is, I believe, the Cardinals, so that should be an easy game. Oh, no, it's the Seahawks. It's the Seahawks. They are actually on a bye this week. They're one of the last teams to have a bye, which I thought was very intriguing indeed. I'm pulling up all the schedules for these teams. So they're off this week, which means it could be good and it could be bad. The Rams play the Cardinals this week, and then the Seahawks this week play the Falcons. So most likely both of those teams will win those games. Okay, and both, I believe, are noon games as well. No, the Rams game is 3:25. Okay. Both of those teams will go to 10-3, most likely, unless something crazy happens. Okay? Next week, the 49ers play the Titans. They play the Titans. That's huge. It's a very easy game. Okay? Then you play the Colts. The way the Colts are playing, I think the 49ers take that. You do play the Bears, which is interesting, and then you play the Seahawks. Say the 49ers go 3-1 in that slate, beating the Seahawks. You have 12 wins. That's insane. The Rams have to play the Seahawks and the Lions. I do think they'll win those games. They'll beat. Maybe the Rams will win the division. Ooh, they have 5 wins. Something's crazy going to happen, I think. I think for sure, though, that the San Francisco 49ers could get second place because the Seahawks have quite a few primetime games this year. This remaining, last 5 weeks. And Sam Darnold, we know what he does in primetime. It's not very good. I think they probably go 2-3. The Seahawks go 2-3 in their remaining 5 games. That gives them 11 wins, maybe 12 wins at the best. The Rams, they play here's the Rams schedule. The Rams play the Cardinals, the Lions, Seahawks, Falcons, and Cardinals. If the Cardinals can steal one game, and then maybe, just maybe, the Lions could steal a game, or the Seahawks. Like, a couple weeks ago, I would be looking at this and say, okay, the Lions and Seahawks could really beat them, and they would go 3-2. The Rams would be 12-5, and then the tiebreaker would really come into factor. This is what San Francisco needs. They need both of those teams to go like 3-2 or 2-3. Or, I mean, I guess you could say, I'm also saying they only win 3 games and they lose to the Bears. I think they could beat the Bears for sure. They go 4 wins, 13 wins. Then it makes it a little interesting because then you just need, one loss against probably a division. Well, the Rams right now are 2-1. Yeah, see, they need one more division loss for that tiebreaker to come true. This is going to be interesting. This is why playoffs are so fun. Playoff picture, talking about that is also fun. And I will do more of that on next week's NFL show. And I hope you guys will come back for that show. But we're not done here. This is just part of the way done. So 5 things we learned from the NFL. As a reminder, we looked at the playoff picture. We looked at here it is. We looked at the Colts, and maybe I realized they're a bit overrated. I gave you my Vikings rant of the week. I also said I kind of believe in the Bengals. And then we talked about the 49ers that I say, hey, the 49ers could for sure win the division if things happen correctly. I just also wanted to title that something. It was just really talking about the NFC West. So with that, our first thing's done, and now we're going to go to the shorter segment of the 3. It's our picks segment. It's where I hold myself accountable for my picks I made last week, and then week 14 picks I will make as well. We had an update. I was looking at my picks, and I had made some calculation errors, and so I had to edit some things, okay? But this will be my week 14 picks, but time to predict the unpredictable because this season has been super unpredictable. I went 9-7 last week. There were no teams on bye. My overall record, this was updated 123-70, and then 123 out of 193. So we are still at, I believe, 58%. I believe out of 193 is. Oh no, we got to raise that up. It's a 63% completion percentage. And why I say we went 14-2 in week 1 was because the website we use to keep track of our picks. And by the way, here are my week 13 picks that I had made. Started actually keeping track of our record, but I had forgotten to submit our week 1 picks. But go ahead and look at if you want. It's not the best video, but I did record my week 1 picks, and we went 14-2. So you add 14 to that, so 109 plus 14 should be 123. So that is why I had to add week 1 we went 14-2. But yeah, without further ado, that's a recap of how I did. I went 9-7, and so let's get into my week 14 picks. Okay, Thursday Night Football. I already teased this one. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. Then I'm taking the Seahawks. Then I'm giving me Shadur Sanders over the Tennessee Titans. My Minnesota Vikings. I don't care who's starting. Marcus Mariota is going to beat us. Give me Tua over the Jets. I think we could maybe end up talking about a hypothetical playoff push from the Dolphins. They do have a really easy schedule, so that's going to be interesting to see. Man, the Buccaneers really need to win this week. If they can't beat the Saints, they might be done. Again, this is the game for really the lead in the division. I do trust the Colts a little bit more, even if I might think they might now be a little overrated. I'm gonna give the W to Jonathan Taylor. I think he's gonna have an insane game this week. And then, I was gonna originally pick the Baltimore Ravens in this next matchup, but we had that news this morning from Adam Schefter that Lamar Jackson was not playing, and if they put Tyler Huntley in, there is no way the Baltimore Ravens win. I'm gonna trust Adam Schefter, and I'm gonna pick the Pittsburgh Steelers. As y'all know, also I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is going to go 3-0 against Josh Allen and just have his number, just like Patrick Mahomes has his number. Has Josh Allen's number as well. Just a bunch of good quarterbacks have Josh Allen's number because they're a better team and a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I do think Josh Allen is a bit overrated, but that is a hot take for another time. Moving into the Sunday late slate, we got another game basically for the division lead. Give me the Chicago Bears. The Broncos better win this game. Yeah, that's just simple. Of course. Also, same thing. The Rams better win that game. If you lose to the Panthers and then the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks, I might be calling you a fraud. But then that leaves us for the last primetime games of the week. It's the Texans and the Chiefs Sunday Night Football from Arrowhead. But I know people are saying, okay, Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes is him. He's clutch like that. He's going to end up making the playoffs. I do not think so. They are going to have a record of 6 wins and 7 losses. Yes, I said it, 6-7, because the Houston Texans, who just beat the Indianapolis Colts, who look like the best AFC team all season long, they are going to beat the Chiefs. And be aware. That's all I'm going to say of the Houston Texans. And finally, give me the Eagles on the road against the LA Chargers. I will submit those picks, and I cannot change them. I will come out with a short with my picks as well. Those just seem to get more views. And let me know who you guys pick for this week. Who you guys are going with? Are you having any huge upsets, or you could count the Bengals game as an upset, or are there some easy locks? Just let me know. Let me know down in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. And okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed those picks. And now it's time for our final segment of our NFL episode. It's our power rankings. And so let's get over there. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. All right, so this is just our power ranking screen. It's our default. Those teams, so starting towards the end of the season, I just kind of keep the worst teams in the league just because I don't really want to talk about the worst teams in the league. I will kind of rearrange them, but they all tend to be the same as number 1 pick contention. I forgot to keep this one. Just missing the playoffs. There we go. Okay. But yeah, as a reminder, I will pop up week 12's power rankings to the right of this here so you guys can compare and contrast. But yeah, let's start with these number 1 pick contention teams. The Jets, I do still think, are the worst team in the league. Second to the Saints, and then you got the Titans and Raiders. Those are for sure your bottom 4 teams. I'm going to, put the Browns there as a bottom 5 team as well. And then these 2 teams are very interesting because they have a lot of potential. And, Going into the season, I thought the Falcons were going to be pretty good, but they've just been decimated with injuries. So they are so bad that they could be a number one pick contention. But obviously they're better than all these other teams. And then the Giants, I think, could be, a solid right over here, especially next year. That's what I'm saying, next year, because when you have Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbo, Jackson Dart, and all those young bulls, it's gonna be a fun team to watch. At least that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, let's start talking about the real power rankings here. Those are just kind of like the icky power rankings. We're gonna talk about the good teams, or the exciting teams that kind of making a splash. Well, not really, because we're gonna go through some of the mediocre at best teams, and that is the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders, I feel so bad for you guys. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. However, he's been hurt. Terry Scary's been hurt. Yes, he returned too little too late. They're like 3 wins on the season. They maybe could go on a little bit of a winning streak. I think they'll probably, as I said, beat my Minnesota Vikings. But I don't see this team getting more than 6 wins, and that's mediocre. Could be number one pick contention, but I think there's just so many bad teams that I want to add some teams at mediocre at best. They were there last week as well. Then you've got should we do Dolphins? Dolphins, I can't say mediocre at best anymore. They have a really easy schedule. They're going to be just missing the playoffs. I think they're going to be one of those teams right on the bubble that are going to barely miss it. That AFC is so tight. It's going to be really interesting to see how they continue to play. And by the way, they've been without Tyreek Hill. Next year, if they can keep that team together, I don't know if they're going to keep Tua as their quarterback. But yeah, that team is really very interesting. It's like they started so bad, and now they're kind of winning games and maybe coming into a playoff conversation. So I gotta give them some respect for that, and they're gonna be just missing the playoffs. We can go my Minnesota Vikings here. I'm not gonna say much about it. I kind of ranted about them a lot. They're not gonna be just missing the playoffs. They're gonna be mediocre at best. And because I think the Commanders will beat us, I'll put us under the Washington Commanders towards the bottom of the league. Then you got also the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are pretty darn bad as well. Do I think they could beat the Vikings? Yeah, I do think they could beat the Vikings, but I'm going to give the Vikings a little love, just one spot of love, and put the Cardinals right there. And then with looking at that, I think that is all the eliminated teams, or teams that I think are pretty much eliminated besides the Dolphins. Sorry, Dolphins, that you were associated with that. But yeah, let's get into the fun teams who could all hypothetically make the playoffs. I'm going to start with the NFC South. Those two teams in the Buccaneers and the Panthers are going to be potential wildcard teams. Okay, so right now, both teams are playing very similar. Their defense their defense is playing pretty darn good. Their quarterback is very inconsistent right now. I know, Baker, we're not used to seeing this inconsistent, but he is. Bryce Young has been pretty inconsistent. Their running game is getting good with Rico Dowell for the Panthers, and then Bucky Irving comes back for the Buccaneers. Their passing game they have a good young star in Tet McMillan and Emeka Ibuka, but it's just the veterans aren't showing up on these teams like they should be. And of course, only one of those teams I think is going to make the playoffs. So they're both going to be potential wildcard teams in that way, because one of them is going to make the playoffs, one of them isn't, and they're kind of at a wildcard level type of performance. They're not a very I'm not wowed by them, but they could maybe steal a game in a wildcard round or something. But other than that, I'm not really excited for them, unfortunately, but maybe you can always say there's maybe next year. Let's go to the other South division, the AFC South division, with these 3 teams over here. You got the Colts, who were a top 3 team last week. The Jaguars, who were a potential wildcard team last week, and then you got the Houston Texans, who were just missing the playoffs team last week. Let's start with the Houston Texans. The Texans, I do believe, are better than these teams, the Panthers and the Buccaneers, and I do believe that they could slide in because the AFC is so wide open. Their defense is super good, one of the best defenses in the league. CJ Stroud's looking pretty good. They got a good running game. Nico Collins is balling. That team is really exciting, and they are a potential wildcard team. Then you've got the team who's now in the lead of the AFC South. They were a potential wildcard team last week. The Jaguars are now a playoff team just because they are now in the lead for the division. I do think if if the Colts would have still been in the lead for this division, they probably would have been a potential wildcard team. I'm just trying to give a little more love also to the Texans who beat the Colts. Now, if the Jaguars beat the Colts, they get up. And I'm still going to give the Colts some love, but they aren't going to be a Super Bowl favorite anymore. They're not even going to be a Super Bowl contender anymore. I am having a lot of regrets here. They're going to just be a solid playoff team. I'm not going to try to drop them too low, but y'all gotta lock in, Colts, okay? Y'all gotta lock in. Otherwise, this could get interesting very quickly. What division should we do next? Let's do the NFC North. The rest of the NFC North. We got the Bears. I see the Bears first, so let's do the Bears. The Bears are playing some very good football right now, and that good enough football to jump a tier. Last week, excuse me, I always say last year. Last week they were a playoff team. They're gonna move it up a little bit to be a Super Bowl contender. I believe with Ben Johnson, the first-year head coach from Detroit. I believe they can make a run for the Lombardi Trophy. They can be a Super Bowl contender. I'm not going to say they're a Super Bowl favorite, but they for sure can be a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if the Detroit Lions can be a Super Bowl contender, though. I had them as a playoff team last week. I'm going to keep them at a playoff team. Do I do that? No, I'm not. I'm going to put them as a potential wildcard team. To be honest, don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. Amon-Ra's hurt. They lose to the Green Bay Packers, who are playing some really good football as well. Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons, y'all are a playoff team as well. I'm going to put you guys in the middle. We're going to put you in the Bears spot last week. But yeah, this NFC North teams, I've talked a little bit about it already today. It's going to be interesting to see where they shake up, where they end up. But Micah Parsons looked really good on Thanksgiving. So did Jordan Love. They beat the Lions, and they look like they could do some damage in the playoffs. Another team that played on Thanksgiving was the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys were like at mediocre at best. They were just missing the playoffs. They were a potential wildcard team last week. And they're going to still be a potential wildcard team, but they are going to be ahead of all of these teams. I really like the way the Dallas Cowboys are playing right now. Dak Prescott looks good. You got the big three in Dak Prescott, George Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb. That defense is looking good after the trade deadline, adding Quinn and Williams. And maybe Jerry Jones kind of does know how to run a football team because, hey, this team could maybe slip into the playoffs or maybe even overthrow the Eagles in that division. Let's do the NFC AFC North now. We got the Steelers, who are a playoff team just because they were in the lead for the division last week. They are now a potential wildcard team and at the bottom of the list. I do not trust the Steelers whatsoever. They just I just don't. I just do not like the way the Steelers are playing. There's something about their system. Mike Tomlin might be on the hot seat. But yeah, and thinking right now here, just so that the Dolphins aren't alone, I'm going to move the Panthers down to just missing the playoffs. And then just because one of those NFC South teams will just miss the playoffs and then one will slide in as a playoff team, but they're playing at the level of a wild card team, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, the Steelers, I don't know what to make of it. But yeah, that's where I'm going to put the Steelers. I don't know what's going on, though, also with the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, come on, you got to be better at some point. You're. I know you might be hurt, but still, that was embarrassing against the Bengals. And you guys, you were a potential wildcard team last week. To be honest, I don't know if you're. I mean, okay, you're in a division spot right now, so you are going to be a playoff team just because you are in a division spot. But that could go as quickly as that snap. Because I don't trust really anybody in this division right now. If the Bengals, of course, do beat the Bills, I think I trust the Bengals more than the Ravens and the Steelers. But that's just me. And then speaking of the Bengals were just missing the playoffs team. I do think they can slide in. I would take them over the Steelers and I'm going to put them right there. That's a huge jump for them given where they've been. They've been at mediocre at best for a long part of the season. They've even been at the number one pick contention level. But Joe Burrow has turned this team around. Obviously, it's one game. I could be overreacting. But in my opinion, they are a potential wildcard team. Of course, if they lose next week, I think it would, or this upcoming week, I think it would be very hard for them to not then make the playoffs. So then they'll probably be at just missing the playoffs. But yeah, Bengals, you're gonna make an exciting story, and I'm really excited to see how this turns out. Let's do the AFC West next here, or the remaining teams of the AFC West. We got the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. Starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs, a potential wildcard team because that's exactly what they were last week. They're 6-6, I believe. They're sitting outside the playoff, and I think they're going to be one of the teams to just miss the playoffs. Because of Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be above the other teams in that tier. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams, especially in the AFC, that are going to be, just missing the playoffs because of how tight it is. And I think the Chiefs are going to be one of those teams. We got the Chargers, who I've been disrespecting. I have been disrespecting the Chargers. They're now 8-4. I still don't trust them. I still do not trust them whatsoever. The Jaguars beat you, so they have the tiebreaker, even if the Jaguars lose against the Colts, and then the Colts regain number 1 spot in the division. The Jaguars are probably going to be one of the best AFC wildcard teams. They knocked the Chargers out to place 7 or 8. So I think the Chargers are still in the hot seat. I'm going to put them as a potential wildcard team because they right now are in a wildcard spot. I'm going to put them right here, kind of just right in the middle. But yeah, I'm going to show some love just because they are 8-4. But I'm saying Justin Herbert, I don't think he's going to have enough to make the playoffs this season. And even if they were to make the playoffs, they would be a one and done. That leaves the final AFC West team. And it is going to be one of my top 2 teams in the NFL. It is going to be Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. They are one of my Super Bowl favorites. Man, Bo Nix, and man, that defense. Imagine if Bo Nix would have been drafted to the Minnesota Vikings with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. That would have been interesting. They have a good defense, too. I think maybe we would have been talking about a Vikings Super Bowl run, but that's not the case. I think we can be talking about a Broncos Super Bowl run right now. And that's what I'm going to do. I really like the Broncos. They're 10-2, and one of my Super Bowl favorites. 2, 4, 6 spots, 6 teams left. And as you can see, the list at the top is getting thinner and thinner, which is very interesting because it's been a lot of top heavy, but no, it's bottom heavy and middle heavy because we just don't know who's going to make the playoffs. But I do think, spoiler alert, 5 out of these 6 teams are going to make. Sorry, I keep leaning back in my chair because when I talk, I like to do that. Here, I will lean back and then bring my mic. There, I bring my mic back so it's not echoing or whatever. I do think 5 out of the 6 of these teams will make the playoffs. Who do you think that one man out is? Out of these, one team out. What's the odd team out of these teams? You can see it, right? Yeah. So out of these teams, who's the odd man out? Not the Rams, not the 49ers, and not the Seahawks, because I obviously said all 3 of those NFC West teams were going to make the playoffs. So let's rank them now here, and then we'll talk about the 3 remaining teams. The Seahawks with Sam Darnold are a playoff team. They are not a Super Bowl contending team. That is all I'm going to say about that. They are for sure a playoff team. They're going to be right there with those teams. Right there is perfect for me. What were they last week? They were really right there too. They were 2, 4, 6, 8. They were 10. They were 10 last week. I think they probably are going to be a little 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They might have fallen 1 spot out of my power rankings. But anyway, the Rams were number 2 last week. And this is interesting. The Rams, I don't know how I feel about them losing to the Carolina Panthers. I still think they're going to be a Super Bowl favorite or contender. I'm going to do favorite. I think no. I can't just have one loss get in the way. The Rams look really good with Matthew Stafford. He just had a bad game. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, etc. They are going to be one of my Super Bowl favorite teams as well. Then we got the San Francisco 49ers, who were a Super Bowl contender last week. And I'm going to save it right there because I'm going to keep them exactly right there in front of the Chicago Bears, mostly because they beat Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. They didn't really beat a good team. I'm waiting for them to beat a good team to take that next step and put them into the Super Bowl favorites. And so there were 3 teams left now. 2 of those teams I think will make the playoffs. 1 will not. I will say the Patriots have the best record in the league. They are the best team in the league. So give me the Patriots as my Super Bowl favorite, my number 1 team in the league, with Drake May and company. But yeah, so then one of these 2 teams I don't think is going to make the playoffs. And if you were paying attention earlier, I said that the Philadelphia Eagles were one of my still locks, despite being 8-4. The Philadelphia Eagles are still a Super Bowl favorite. They are going to. I still like them. They're going to be a top 4 team here, despite going on kind of a losing streak. I know the Bears beat the Eagles, but I still think when it counts, the Eagles will beat the Bears, just because of their experience. And then so that means the 49ers are a top 5 team, because the Buffalo Bills, I think, is going to miss the playoffs. They are a playoff team at the moment. They're in a playoff spot. There's just something about them I don't totally, trust. But I will take them over some of these teams. I'll put them smack in the middle. They just dropped down a few spots. Just about it's kind of a preference take as well. Just kind of how I view things here. But yeah, those are my week, 14 power rankings, I think. And I will, of course, as normal, read them off 1 through 32, starting off with the best team according to my power rankings is this. Number 1 are the New England Patriots. Number 2 are the Denver Broncos. Number 3 are the Los Angeles Rams. Number 4 are the Philadelphia Eagles. And rounding out your top 5 teams according to my power rankings this week are the San Francisco 49ers. Number 6 are the Bears. Number 7 are the Packers. Number 8 are the Colts. Number 9 are the Jaguars. Number 10 are the Bills. And then, sliding out of the top 10 at 11 are the Seahawks. 12 are the Ravens. Then you got 13 Cowboys, 14 Lions, 15 Texans, 16 Chargers, 17 Buccaneers, 18 Bengals, 19 Steelers, 20 are the Chiefs, 21 are the Panthers, 22 are the Dolphins, 23 are the Commanders, 24 are the Vikings, 25 are the Cardinals, 26 are the not Steelers, the Falcons, 27 are the Giants, 28 are the Browns. Then you got 29 Raiders, 30 Titans, 31 Saints, and the Jets are still your 32nd ranked team, the worst team in the league according to my power rankings. And those are my week 14 power rankings, NFL power rankings. And of course, comparing them to last week's power rankings as well. That's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, for, just so you never ever miss an episode here on YouTube. Coming up kind of next on the channel, we will have my week 15 NFL show, next Thursday. It's December 11th. Feel free to suggest any podcast video ideas if you even want to come on the show. There's a Google form in my description. I try to get back to those as much as possible. I check once or twice a week. Once a week. I check those forms to see if anybody's filled them out. If you guys want to come up on the show, I try to post almost daily shorts. Like the 17-0, trying to build a 17-0 NFL team. I will be posting more 2K rebuilds. We're trying to rebuild every single NBA team in one season to kick off the NBA season. I know it's been a long time because it's 30 videos and I just don't have that much time to post that many gaming content. So I just post it when it's possible, but we're trying to get it done by Christmas, so that we can start some new challenges in 2026. And then, maybe this weekend, maybe next weekend, we're going to have a Minnesota Wild episode because they are hot. They are hot indeed. We're going to have a special guest on with that show. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys truly did enjoy it. And yeah, give us a thumbs up, like the video, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to keep God first because He is the most important thing in your lives. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.